That's right back, Charlie.
There's always just that active and that defending. I think it's like. There's always just that active and that defending. I think it's like. There's always just that active and that defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on. As the big man just said there, people deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, in some cases, good night to whom it may concern. Again, one love to you lot tuned in, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch. Again, as we draw to a close of the transfer window, I'm pretty sure you're seeing more aggressive links, not just with Arsenal Football Club, but those of you who support other football clubs. One love to you lot on YouTube. Smash the like button. Twitch gang, one love. Straight from the start, I'm taking Pavard. I mean, we need a defensive option. We're a bit weaker on the left-hand side, but I would like another defensive body, and I do think Pavard stagnated. He's almost aggressively been linked with Manchester United, regardless of what's happening there. I mean, it would be a decent option, really. It seems like a lot of those players that are at Bayern Munich, they win things there, and it's like they're kind of jumping at moving throughout the summer early doors. You've heard Sane, Gnabry, Kimmich, now Pavard, and several players, Goretzka, allegedly angled for a move away. As you can see, and we might as well get into it straight off the bat, allegedly Romano has said Benjamin Pavard one to watch as he's prepared to leave Bayern now. You have seen those before. Inter have Pavard on top of the list. Proposal expected soon to open talks. Man United deal stalling due to Maguire's situation. As you know, his move to West Ham at this moment has hit a roadblock. Could become an option for Arsenal to replace Timber. No decision yet. So, I mean, it's Romano. There must be some sort of element behind that, but it doesn't really say anything in specifics. With Inter, it says they're preparing a proposal for United. It says that whether it's going to happen or not, it kind of hangs on Maguire. For Arsenal, and just a case of Timber being injured, really and truly. So I don't know if there's any credibility with that. Apparently, Thomas Tuchel on Benjamin Pavard said, Benjamin hasn't communicated to me that he really wants to leave. As of now, there hasn't been an offer. He's our player and gets full support. Until that changes, we're fully counting on him. To be fair, what more could Thomas Tuchel say? He's hardly going to come out and say the obvious as long as there's no progression. So we're going to have to monitor that closely. In other news, Arsenal have agreed a deal for Runnison to move to Cardiff on a season-long loan. Apparently, he has 1 year left on his deal with the option of another one. So yeah, man, we should have tore up the deal. Allegedly, in relation to Balogun, again, today it's now Tottenham Hotspur and West Ham, and obviously Fulham. Yesterday it was Inter Milan. Day before that it was Monaco, and it just continues to rotate. Scrolling all the way down, it's clear that at present, Balogun is not in Mikel Arteta's plans. Apparently, bids from Inter Milan and Monaco have already failed to meet Arsenal's 50 million valuation of the striker. Interest has surfaced from around the Premier League, with West Ham and Chelsea previously mooted to be keen. That was like at the start of the window, but the race for his signature has taken yet another turn. It was understood that Monaco would revisit Arsenal's stance on Balogun with another bid, but it now seems the Ligue 1 side are redirecting their focus. According to RMC Sport, Monaco are in ongoing negotiations with Leicester over a move to sign Daka. So maybe they've said, you know what, Balogun's too expensive, forget that, we're going to keep it moving, really and truly. Solid replacement for Tierney if Tierney does end up going, and just as versatile. Shout out yourself, Josh. So we'll have to see in that regards. Tavares, as we know, apparently is in talks to go to Nottingham Forest on loan. We all know Mbalo's broken his ACL. And Fulham's been linked with Balogun. Again, it seems a case of put up or shut up. Again, apparently Mikel Arteta has fired a warning to Arsenal's players, really. He has fired a warning to to Ramsdale, the keeper's jersey is up for grabs. Again, I think we'll go over that when we get to the press conference. Again, Tierney's been linked with several moves. I don't know where the Newcastle move is concerned because it seems like they're getting Lewis Hall, who can play in a bunch of positions just like fullback. He has been linked with Sociedad, and they're apparently moving closer to signing Reguilon. So I don't know if that has ramifications on Tierney potentially going to Spain, regardless of Timber's injury. As we saw today, people allegedly, Fulham are considering a move for Arsenal's 50 million rated striker Balogun as they prepare to sell Mitrovic to El Hilal. Now, just on the basis of them maybe needing a striker to replace him, having brought in Jimenez, and the fact that Balogun does want to move away, and clearly Arsenal do want to move him on, doesn't really say anything other than that, people, essentially, with respect to a move to Fulham. So we're gonna have to monitor that. There's been an update on that. Apparently Fulham step up interest in Arsenal's Balogun, but the clubs are still £10 million apart in their valuation of the striker, with the Gunners holding up for 45 million quid. 45 million quid for a 22-year-old who's not in the plans of Arteta, plus a sell-on clause. I'm having that, really, even if I believe we should, in an ideal world, Balogun would sign a new contract and go out on loan again, but that's not how the cookies crumbled. Apparently, Fulham have stepped up their interest in Arsenal forward Balogun, but remain 10 million short of the North London club's valuation. The Gunners are holding out for 45 million for the USA international after he enjoyed a successful loan spell in France with Reims last year. Arteta's side had initially wanted 50 million before lowering their price tag. However, the Cottagers are only willing to pay a maximum of 35 million. We all know the goals he scored. We all know he's played for America at international level. Once again, he's been linked with Monaco, Inter, and Spurs. I mean, has he got the bollocks to sign for Spurs? If you want 50 million, if Spurs are getting him, you got to get 60, make it worth our while, essentially, really. I would rule out going to Spurs, but you can never rule out anything, people. Again, Balogun's had some injuries and whatnot in pre-season, so he hasn't really had an opportunity to prove Arteta wrong. That being said, you'd imagine Arteta and his team were monitoring the progress of Balogun throughout the season, and a decision was made, whether it's the right one or the wrong one, long before this. Arsenal in talks with Nottingham Forest over Nuno Tavares' exit. As we know, people, he's surplus to requirements at the Emirates Stadium. We've entered into talks with Forest as they tried to offload to Nuno Tavares. Apparently, some people are saying 12 million could be that, what we're looking for. Though this appears a bit more bullish, people. West Ham and Galatasaray both showed interest in Tavares last month, and Arsenal thought to want around 22 million if they sell him outright. The fact that we've got injuries at fullback, and rightly so, he's not considered, tells you everything, really and truly. In no world should we be looking at integrating Tavares. Apparently, Fatty has chosen to leave Barcelona because he feels he isn't trusted by Xavi, with Premier League clubs, including Man United, Arsenal, and Spurs, on red alert. Apparently, he's reportedly asked to leave Barcelona. But then some reports you look at where Fatty's concerned, people, all it says is, I want to stay regardless of whatever's going on. At 20 years of age, I think he's got a world of potential. He's fairly versatile. Arteta does love a broken wonder kid, so bring him to the carpet, provided he can stay fit. But Barca are going to want decent money for their graduate. He's got 4 years left on his deal, despite the fact that only 20 people look at him as damaged goods. It doesn't say anything other than United, Arsenal, and Spurs are among Premier League sides that have been linked with him. Does not say anything in relation to potentially a move. We all know he tore his meniscus in his left knee and was out for 9 months in 2020. Currently, he's played 110 times for Barca and has 29 goals and 10 assists. So there is a certain level of experience that he could travel with. We're edging closer to Runarsson and Tavares leaving. I mean, the Runarssons, the Tavareses, the Lokongas, the Pepes, the quicker we can get these guys gone to go with Matt Turner, the better, really. Again, we've already touched on Runarsson going to Cardiff, and we've touched on Tavares. So yeah, I don't think we need to keep waffling, but this final paragraph could be something. Elsewhere, Monaco are expected to make a second bid for Balogun after seeing an opening offer rejected. Inter Milan remain interested in the American striker. Tierney is also attracting interest from Sociedad over a potential loan, while Besiktas would like to take Pepe on a free transfer if Arsenal terminate his contract. Lokonga and Cedric Suarez will be allowed to leave at the right price. Cedric has a right price. What's good, Cornell? I hope you're doing well. Big up Elise, really. But that, I know Elise signed a new deal, but that could just be engineered to obviously get more money out of Chelsea, really. Or who knows. We were once linked with Wahi. Apparently, West Ham are aggressively pursuing him. And we've already gone on the case of Asu Fati. Again, Steve Parris says Elise signed a new 4-year deal with the club. It was expected that Chelsea was going to sign him, and it's another reminder that until people are holding shirts, medicals are done, etc., anything can happen. The Guardian earlier today spoke on Timber's injury, but it said it remains to be seen whether Arsenal rekindle their interest in RB Leipzig's Mohamed Simikan, having already spent almost 200 million this summer on new recruits. Would love it to happen, and it would only cost 35 million. Surely that's cheaper than Pavard. Allegedly, Brighton and Arsenal and Southampton are fighting for a young, highly rated Scottish goalkeeper called Callum McKenna. Never seen the Scottish under 17s international in my life, but if he is half decent, bring him to the carpet. It's as simple as that. We all know that Martin Odegaard apparently is in talks to renew his deal at Arsenal and commit his future further. And apparently, Arsenal are looking to get that done. Currently, the 24-year-old has 18 months on his deal. He's contracted until 2025 with an option of another year. So hopefully, we commit the Glaswegian. Again, this is updated itself, really, because it did say some Arsenal news. Should we scroll the way down? Tavares talks continue. Apparently, the Express Sport understands negotiations are ongoing between Arsenal and Forest over Nuno Tavares. Both a loan move and permanent transfer is currently under discussion between the two clubs. Arsenal are more than happy to move the player on, but they feel they're entitled to some profit on the 8 million paid to Benfica. So we'll have to see in that regard. Apparently, West Ham are pressing for Kudus. I don't know why he rejected Brighton and why he's going to West Ham, with the greatest of respect, but there you have it there. At least they signed a new deal at Crystal Palace. West Ham are looking to complete this Kudus deal. Newcastle have agreed a £28 million deal with Chelsea for Lewis Hall. Don't know if there's a buyback clause, but that probably has ramifications on Tierney potentially moving there, unless they've got plans to play him in midfield. Felix allegedly wants to cancel his Atletico Madrid contract. Don't think they'll let you do that, essentially, but who knows? We have been linked with Laporte. Apparently, Man City keep waiting on a final decision by Laporte after accepting a bid from Saudi Arabia. Negotiations continue on the player side. They're waiting on Laporte. I mean, maybe he wants to continue in Europe. Maybe he wants to move to Spain, but 29 years of age, I don't think you could afford to turn down that Middle Eastern money. Romano's also added his own spin on the Kudus stuff and says West Ham and Ajax continue negotiations in that regards. And the Indonos on social media have said Spurs have inquired about Balogun. Put some tax on that, really and truly, essentially. So that ends the transfer news and whatnot. No Pavard, please. Why not? Heard someone say they'd rather have Emerson Rowe over Reece James. Nonsense. Why would you do that? What's your take on Tierney, DG? Do you rate him or do you think his time's up? I think the two parallels are the same. I rate Tierney. I just think the system looks like it left you. While I'm a big fan of your professionalism, your versatility, and that you can play centre half, your street smartness in closing out games, rightly or wrongly, don't appear in Arteta's plans. And I don't think you're the second choice fullback anymore. Obviously, Timber's injury has put a span in the works, and Mikel Arteta has spoken about this, but Kyrgios probably ahead of you, Tomiyasu's probably ahead of you, Timber's ahead of you, and Zinchenko's ahead of you. You're too good to be a squad player. Would love him to stay, but it is what it is. Big up the nation, loving the content, my guy. Still off sick, so here for the afternoon. Inner Circle, get better soon, my guy, and appreciate you and everybody else who is tuned in, man. Keep your thoughts and opinions coming. Let's see what Mikel Arteta has had to say in his press conference, people. In fact, we can just skip to the bulk of it, really. Big up Odegaard and Saka. They've both been nominated for PFA Player of the Year. Unfortunately, so has Haaland as well. So that probably means that is a myth for them. Let's see what Arteta has said in his press conference as we gear up for Monday's game against Crystal Palace. On Timber's injury, said it's a huge blow, especially for him having just joined the club, to have that injury, and he has is a huge disappointment for him. Obviously, for the team, it's a big blow because we recruited him with clear intentions, and what he was bringing to the team was evident, and he's not going to be in this season for us. So that probably writes off his season, and it would be lovely to have him at, especially the away games, especially the top 6 games where we're playing tricky customers out wide. I think he's very good 1v1. I love Zinchenko and I love what he brings to the table, but there's evident issues defensively. I like what Tomiyasu does. It's almost the polar opposite of Zinchenko in that he can lock down that channel, but he kind of kills our attacking play. Timber kind of had that balance, really, and I do like Kyrgios. I do think he's improving, but again, the jury's still out. He had a good preseason and a good season towards the end of last year, but the jury's still out. But it is what it is. Injuries can strike at any time. Hopefully he's back sooner rather than later, but he said he's not going to be in this season for us. We have to adapt. These things happen, unfortunately, and we have to move on. On his reaction, he said he's been very good, to be honest. He's a special character. He knows, and I think he's starting to realize the extent of the injury and the amount of time that he's going to be out, but he's in a good place. We're willing to help him, and we are all very close to him, but it's going to be a long journey, very long journey, one of isolation where, yeah, your family's going to be there. Arsenal are going to give you the best rehab, but you have to take that on mentally, really, and even when he's fit, again, last night I was looking at what Tomiyasu, Bellerin, Rob Holding, Callum Chambers, Falcao, Ibrahimovic, Ruud van Nistelrooy, just how Del Piero, just how they felt with ACL. So you can come back. But the question to be asked is, how long do the mental wounds last for as well as the physical? Will you come back in the same state? What I would say is at least it's happened at the best time in it. Not that there's ever a good time. It's happened in August. sooner you get this out of the way, the better. We obviously can move in the market. And at 22 years of age, having just made a move to the club of your dreams, having set the world alight with in Arsenal standards, really having done well in pre-season and against City, these things happen. And at 22, this is his first significant injury. COVID is the longest he's been out for if you look at transfer mark, but it is what it is, people. And he seems a very religious man. He's going to need to keep the faith. On whether it changes his attitude in the transfer market, I believe it should, because we're a lot weaker. Timber made us a lot stronger defensively, even though he only played 50 minutes of official Premier League football. But I think it does, because we're kind of back to square one. As much as I think we're kind of well stocked, truthfully, even if Tierney stays, Tomiyasu, and Zinchenko, you're not really betting your life they're going to be fit for the majority of the season, really. Anything can happen. I am more thinking about the resources that we have within the team to keep doing what we want to do. It's true that he was giving us very different things in terms of what we can do on both sides. But again, these things happen and we have to be prepared for that, which is true. On whether it's an opportunity for Tierney, it's an opportunity for everybody. We're going to need everybody and everyone is going to be important. The numbers that we have in the squad, especially in those positions, are more limited now. So everyone has to be ready. I mean, he's answered the question greatly, but he's also not answered the question. On whether Tierney is still part of his plans, well, he played the Community Shield, no. So a player that I played 5 days before in the final is part of the plans for sure. On whether Tierney was disappointed not to be involved against Forest, I hope so, yes. On what Raya brings to Arsenal, better qualities for our game model. Oh, that'd be interesting if I'm Ramsdale and I hear that. It's very simple. We want 2 players per position that can do that. And you saw what happened to Jerin. It can happen in our goalkeeper. It happened to Courtois. We need to be prepared because the question will be, what is it? 2 keepers of this size? And if Aaron was to sustain a cruciate injury, God forbid, then what do you say? You then change everything. So we have to be prepared. We have to be proactive. And we have 2 excellent goalkeepers now that fit exactly what we want in our model. So I'm very happy with that. On whether there's a number 1, he said in any position, no. 9, 7, 11, 6 goalkeeper, no, there isn't. On Zinchenko's fitness, Alex is doing very well. He's been training with us and hopefully we're going to have him available very, very soon. On team news, he said no new concerns after the game. Jesus is still not available and not fit, but the rest are good. On Kai Havertz, he's fitted in really well. I think he played a really good game against Man City. He had 2 big chances to score and he didn't, but everything he did apart from that was excellent. The other day as well, he played in 2 different positions throughout the game, one more as an 8, one more as a 10. I'm really happy with what he's bringing to the team, his intensity, his mobility, his threat, his understanding of the game and spaces, and the way he's fitted in around the boys as well. So I'm really happy with him. On if he's satisfied his defense is strong enough despite Timber's injury, I don't, but is what it is. We didn't plan for this injury, so we have to assess now what the options are and the best way to get the best out of the players. I cannot control anything that is not here. We are always open and we have always been open to react if something happens, not only with an injury, but with the market as well. And that's what we are doing. On the positives of the Forest win, the dominance of the game, the amount of times that we played in the territory that we want to play in, the amount of chances that we created. Mikel, I don't think we created enough by our standards, but you're the gaffer. And the things that we conceded a chance in the first half that was directly after a second ball. They hooked and they're through. Then they countered after a set play with both coming from a goal kick and the one coming from a corner. But after that, nothing else. When you dominate the game as much as we did the other day and the situations you have, the final pass is still not neat enough or good enough to finish the actions better. That's what we have to improve. On being more clinical, we have to be, when you play games of that type, it has to finish 3, 4, 5. Fact. We didn't do that, and that's why in the Premier League, if you give something to the opponent, it's going to be a nervy ending, unfortunately. On Saka's development, I think he keeps growing year by year. You set him new targets, and he sets himself new targets and new demands, and he seems to complete those. He's extremely hungry and willing to learn and improve and become the player that decides the game every 3 days. Another time, a manager or a player connected to this club has mentioned games every 3 days. And that's what he has between his 2 eyes. He's very focused boy and he does everything to do that. The way he trains, the way he prepares himself, the way he lives his life. I'm very happy. So he needs to keep doing what he's doing. Can't disagree with that. Allegedly, Reece James is out again as well. Your point, Pavard, think more money puts more pressure on our to be fair, we spent an X amount of money already, so what more pressure could there essentially be in that regards? Pavard is solid, at least on Ben White level, in my opinion. I hear that. Just a mental hurdle. Bro is strong. He'll recover and come back. It's true, man. And to be honest, it's one of those injuries where you could come back even quicker or you could be out even less. It's one where they have to keep dialogue. It's how your knee reacts again, He's going to go under the knife. It affects how you walk, how you drive, let alone play football. As you said, the mental hurdle. And, you're going to be not playing. So you're not really going to be fit. So it all depends. And what I would say, it could be a blessing because you only know how strong you are in moments of adversity. You look, it's completely different. But Martinelli had a big injury, and obviously, he missed a penalty against Sporting Lisbon. Thankfully, Bukayo Saka, in touch with it never happens, hasn't suffered a big injury. But after having a well-end of the season at Arsenal, he obviously missed a penalty for England. Smith Rowe was one of the first names on the team sheet. He got a big injury, found himself out of the team. You might not rate the players, but Rob Holding, Tomiyasu, who I do rate, Bellerin previously, Callum Chambers, they've all gone through big injuries. And when you look really and truly at the amount of ACL injuries or injuries like that, it is quite concerning. We've got Timber, you've seen it with Militao and Courtois. I could be wrong, but I'm sure Chelsea's Christopher and Nkunku. I don't know why these things are happening. Maybe it's coincidental. We'd have to talk to a doctor because I don't know anything about that. Nonetheless, on the goalkeeping situations, when we had different goalkeepers, there were questions as well. To have two excellent goalkeepers is great. There's nothing wrong with it. Amen, Gaffer. We have two great left wingers and two great strikers and two great holding midfielders. Now, if I play devil's advocate, we all know there's strikers that can play in people that can play up front. But that just tells me, if I'm playing devil's advocate, he said two great strikers. I think he's talking about Jesus and Eddie Nketiah. He's again. He might have forgotten Balogun, but Arteta is very smart. Sometimes he says things specifically. Sometimes you have to focus on what he doesn't say. He said two strikers. All depends, really. He said two left wingers. That could apply to Trossard and Martinelli and alienate Smith Rowe playing there. You never know, people, but it is quite interesting. And two great holding midfielders. We have three. We have Jorginho, Thomas, and Declan. That's not a problem, and it should not be a problem. We want to be better every single day, and to be better, the environment has to change and be better. We tend to always be at a certain level because in our nature, when you change the environment, and the environment is to be 100% every day, believe me, the level is going to increase. I've seen that with my eyes closed with the players that we have now and what we had 2 years ago. We want to be better. We have to create that environment. On if he believes our strikers can score 20 goals a season. I hope so, man. I hope so. The ACL is the tendon around the knee rips if twisted too much. And the very fact of, if you read some articles, apparently Timber didn't feel pain and he was still walking. So there is positives, but it's a big one, really. And at 22 years of age, Timber, that's your first big injury. We'd all love for every player never have to go through that, but it's a big one. You're going to go under the knife. You're in another country. There are going to be elements of you being alone, but you're going to come back stronger by God's grace. We haven't had that player, but we have managed to be extremely competitive without that player. I think we do need someone that can do that, though, Gaffer. It means the goals have to be shared around, but nobody can sign a piece of paper that says this season a player will score 20, 25 or 30 goals. That's true, unless you're Haaland, previously Harry Kane or Mohamed Salah. And, them players, they are hard to find. We don't know. And if somebody knows, please raise your hand. Martin scored 15 goals. And before, he used to score 3-4. Let's hope him and Martinelli can continue that. What we are doing is working in the best possible way to encourage those players to understand there's no limit and they can be as good as they probably can be. And I'm sure that we have players that can score 20 in the season. I hope he can, people. Big up the women, the England women team for making the final. Obviously, Arteta is going to big them up. And I'm sure he would want Arsenal's women in the England team to win. But obviously, Spain are in the final. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Arteta is a bit conflicted. It's kind of like the under-21 Euros final, where I think he was torn between supporting Smith Rowe and obviously wanting your countrymen to do well. Hit the like button. Keep your thoughts coming, people. Without you lot, the channel is dead, essentially, people. So, yeah, big up you lot each and every time. On whether he can rule out any defenders leaving, there are not any plans on doing anything like that. Plans can change. Plans can fluctuate, especially at a period like this. On whether, Buendia is also out as well. Arteta has spoken about ACLs and he said on whether the recent injuries to the likes of Timber, De Bruyne and Mings are as a result of an increased schedule. There was also Buendia. It happened to Courtois and Militao as well. There's something there. You can say there have been games in the past and there's been tours as well, but the games plus tours plus World Cup in December plus this plus internationals, it's a lot. It's too much for the players. We all know the players are guinea pigs. That's why I don't mind what the players earn, because at least they're the ones that bring the entertainment. It's the fat cats that have all of these pointless tours, pointless friendlies, pointless competitions, move the fixture calendar list around. Players are guinea pigs, and half of these players, you might see the big injuries, but half of these players are putting their body on the line week in, week out, getting painkilling injections, playing with little knocks and nibbles and things like that. Even Declan Rice the other day come out that the man's 80% fit. So that's why it's always annoyed me when people say players don't care and they don't put themselves through the pain barrier. But nonetheless, it's a lot. It's too much for the players. And Arteta's from the school of Pep. Pep said thank you to the Premier League after winning the trophy. Pep agendas like there's never been before. It's a lot. It's too much for the players. It's incredibly demanding when you see the next 36 months of the calendar for those players. It's just better not to look at it because it's incredible what they are going to have to be doing. And some of those that are going to be playing in the Euros at the end of this season that's just started, who knows? We need to look after them. But as a club, when do you look after them to prioritize other competitions? When are sorry, people, I'm moving like I can't read and actually see. And then we are the ones who look after them. So we really need to be sitting down, but it's already too late, at least for another 36 months. I don't know who needs to raise their voice here, but there are worries big.